Now, it's been a busy few months for Rory O'Neill. Since Panti's Noble Call went global, Rory's been on TV shows across the world, hanging out in New York with the mayor, and now he's going to Vicar Street with his first ever stand-up show, High Heel in Low Places. I'm excited to say Rory joins me now in studio. Rory, thanks for joining us.
Hi.
Okay, first things first, right? I was really shocked. Your first ever stand-up show, really?
I know, that's
really?
so funny. You know how the PR thing works. And for whatever reason, they've decided that that's how they're going to sell this show. So whatever, okay, let's do it that way. But of course, you know, all of my theatre shows that I've been doing for years are essentially stand-up. They just, you know, they don't have a bar in the theatre. That's a comic monologue. And my bar and nightclub shows, you know, are essentially stand-up too. But I guess this is just the first time that the show is being sold as a stand-up show. So whatever, that's fine. I don't mind, you know, whatever.
Now, I have to start with what a few months it has been. I'm not going to dwell on the negative. Let's look at the positive.
Yeah, all right.
What has been one of the most fab, surreal things to come out of this?
The whole sort of celebrity nuttery side of it. People are all like, oh my God, Madonna. But to me, that wasn't the one.
I was going to mention that, but I thought, no.
I don't know. For me, the one is Martina Navratilova. You know, because to me, she is, you know, the dykey goddess that...
Okay, for people who don't know Martina Navratilova, huge tennis star.
Well, see, there's this shocking and awful thing. I was out in Ballymun last week speaking to 200 transition year students. And along the way, in my speech, something about Martina Navratilova, I used her as an example about something. And there was just a sea of unregistering faces.
Rory.
And that just seems so awful.
But you need to remember, she was huge in the 80s, 90s. And a lot of these...
Yeah, but I wasn't around when, you know... when Marilyn Monroe was in her prime, but I know who Marilyn Monroe is.
Okay, do you know what? You were actually educating everyone. Everyone now knows who Martina is. Forget about Madonna.
Martina was the greatest tennis player ever. She was also, of course, this out and proud, fierce dyke, you know, back at the time when nobody was that. But then on a less light level, there's been loads of really amazing things. I mean, you know, I was off in Canada last week, you know, on a lecture tour of universities. You know, who'd have thought that Canadian students want to hear what I have to say about stuff, you know.
Oh my God.
You know, all that kind of stuff has been really fun. And then on another level, the thing that I have found best for me in some way, on a professional level, I mean, obviously people come up to me in the street and they say really nice things and they're very supportive and that's all lovely and all. But on a professional level, what actually I found a good thing that's come out of this, for me personally, is I've spent the last 25 years of my life doing this job, and I have always had to fight other people's kind of limited ideas of what a drag queen is or what a drag queen can be. You know, most people have very limited exposure to drag, and they were on holidays once and they ended up in some, you know, funny bar drinking, you know, frozen margaritas, and they saw, you know, a queen, and they think for the rest of their life that that's what a drag show is, and that all drag queens are the same. That's the thing. They get all drag queens the same. And so I've always found it quite difficult to get people to take me seriously or to know what my show would be. And even if it's in a theatre or something, they still imagine that it's going to be the same as the one they saw in Lanzarote. You know, they don't. But the video, the speech, that had definitely changed how people see me. And so now I don't really quite have to fight so hard to get people to take me seriously.
Panti is amazing. I think she is fabulous.
Oh, well, I'll tell her.
How has Panti evolved over the years?
Well, visually, she's evolved a lot. I mean, if you look back at... Of course, I look at old pictures sometimes and I think, oh, Jesus, what was I thinking? You know, but the essential elements were always there. That sort of slight, you know, fun, drunk aunt kind of vibe that she has about her. She used to wear a lot of really short skirts, of course, when she was younger. That's how she ended up with the nickname Panti. And of course, nowadays, she's a woman of a certain age. Yeah, she ain't going to be wearing a mini skirt anymore.
Although, do you know, I don't know why. Every time I think of Panti, maybe now that you're playing Vicar Street as well, I can't help but liken her to Joan Rivers. And I think it might be because as Panti, I can't believe with some of the stuff that you get away with saying. That has to be fun.
Yeah, it's totally fun. And Panti can, of course, say things that I, as Rory, could never say, you know, or without getting punched. And
Do you love that element?
I do, of course. I mean, that's part of what drag is about. Because essentially you're playing this larger than life cartoon character, and people allow cartoons to say things to them that they wouldn't let a normal person on the street say.
Yeah.
But also people allow you, Panti, to say it because they know how it's meant. There's never any malice or meanness in it. It's about bringing everybody to a sort of a same level. And also Panti will, says terrible things about herself all the time.
I love the title of this show, High Heels in Low Places. So what are you going to be telling us in this?
Basically, I'm taking the sort of anarchic energy of my nightclub show and putting it into, Vicar Street and also Cork Opera House and a few other venues. Yeah, it's going to be the crack.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be giving you a speech on gay rights. That's not, it's my nightclub act.
Rory, do you just not believe in sleep? Because you seem to be so busy. Not only do you have your first ever stand-up show at Vicar Street, and it's going around the country too, and hopefully we'll see more of it in Dublin. But tell me about this documentary that you're working on.
Oh, well, actually, that doesn't take up that much of my time because I just carry on. Conor Horgan, he made 100 Mornings and lots of stuff. And Conor has actually been photographing Panti for 20 years, maybe. Conor asked me a few years ago about making a documentary around Panti. And, people have asked me about that many times over the years. I've always said no because I'm just not particularly interested. But I've known Conor for many years, have worked with him many times, and I would trust Conor or whatever. And so I said yes to Conor. So he then has been slowly making this documentary for 3, 4, 5, God, I don't know, 5 years? I don't know. And then when all of this Panti Gate stuff happened, of course, Conor thought that all of his ships had come sailing in. Because, that's what a documentary maker wants, to be in the middle of making a documentary when something exciting happens. And I think he probably, up until then, wasn't exactly sure what is this documentary about,
Yeah.
And I used to think that, Conor, what's your documentary actually about? So he's just been in the thick of it and loving it. So
when's that coming out, do you think?
Well, I think I've taken a very hands-off approach from the very beginning. I was like, Conor, you do what you want, and you tell me when you're finished. I believe now the latest is he's going to keep going to the referendum, which is in the middle of next year.
Fantastic. So hopefully by the end of next year,
something
we'll
like
glorious.
that, I guess. Yeah, but you know what films are like. You never know when they...
And also, on top of that, you're writing your memoirs. The Making of a Woman.
The publishing company is absolutely going to kill me. How does everybody know about this?
Because you've started talking about it.
Well, somebody mentioned it to me yesterday, and there is something in the pipeline. That's all I can say at the minute.
The Making of a Woman.
Is that what you've heard?
I'll take the silence as it is happening soon, and fingers crossed we can buy this as Christmas presents for people.
Well, fingers crossed. Well, I don't know what, yes.
Not confirming or denying anything.
Yes.
But what you are confirming is that you are playing Vicar Street on the...
June 13th, Vicar Street, June 14th, Cork Opera House. And there's a few more dates and venues to be announced. You know how the PR business thing goes. But if you go to thisispopbaby.com, all of the other dates will be added in there and stuff.
Fantastic. Well, Rory, enjoy your first ever stand-up gig.
Yeah.
And it is always such a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you so much.